10 on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW. This is the Ross Kaminsky Show. Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday edition of the Ross Kaminsky Show. I am the aforementioned Ross. Thanks for starting your day and ending your week with me. I really haven't talked about it on the show because I don't talk about private conversations on the show, but I have had the opportunity to have lunch a couple of times with Phil Weiser, once before the election, once after the election. Phil Weiser, the newly elected, not yet sworn in, Attorney General of the state of Colorado. And Phil kindly agreed to join me in studio this morning. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
It's so great to be here, Ross.
Yeah,
thanks for the chocolate here, too.
Oh, Chef Bill makes the most unbelievable chocolate. Did you try it yet?
I've not. I was worried, I'll try some now.
Yeah, you should try it now, and then you can tell Chef Bill what you think.
Chef Bill. They don't hire people in the White House for nothing.
All right. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. We're not going to talk about the campaign, and we are not going to talk about specific issues that you and I expect that you might face when you're in office. It's going to be more.
I'll come back for that.
Oh, yeah, overviews, and we'll talk about that stuff when you're in office. Now, I want to start off with something that you probably don't expect, but here we go. One of the things that bothers me most on television from time to time is when reporters ask, and I'm just going to use an example, reporters ask some random Republican to defend something that Donald Trump did as if that Republican is responsible for Trump. So I got a question for you that has nothing to do with Trump, but I'm going to put you in the same situation and ask you to be responsible for something that you're not responsible for. You clerked for Ruth Bader Ginsburg at the Supreme Court of the United States.
I had nothing to do with her fall and breaking her ribs.
You know what? Before I ask you this question, give people 20 seconds on what it means to clerk for a Supreme Court justice. This folks, is a very big deal.
First, it's a lottery. With Justice White, I actually clerked for two justices, Justice Byron White and Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Justice White said he could throw the applications on the ground, pick one up at random, and he'd be fine. So the idea to get a Supreme Court clerkship, people make a big deal of this, like Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, John Roberts. They're all incredibly smart people, but there are lots of really smart people who never get the clerkship. So first is, it's a lottery. I won the lottery. I had this once-in-a-lifetime experience. That meant I was in the room watching arguments. Cases like Romer versus Evans was the year I was clerking. That was the Colorado Amendment 2 case. And then I get to hear, after the justices have their conference, here's what we decided. And I'm one of like very few people who knows that decision. And there's a code among law clerks because you're like in the room and then you help draft the opinion. When you work for someone like Justice Scalia or Justice Ginsburg, they shred it, and so you can't recognize any of your work on the back end.
Wow.
But you get to be a part of incredibly important work. And what the Supreme Court is known for, and Justice Brandeis said this, they do their own work. So in Congress, you've heard statements like, vote on the bill so we can find out what's in it.
Yeah.
Right? Very few members of Congress actually have read a bill, and if you said to them, what about this provision, most of them would have a blank stare.
Right.
But the Supreme Court justices do their own work. Justice Ginsburg knows everything that's in an opinion she wrote, and everyone else's opinion, she's actually edited it. So there's a level of excellence in legal work that it's like being in a boot camp. If you're get through that boot camp, you know how to do great legal work. And it was quite a trial by fire. It was the second job I had. The first was here in Colorado, clerking for another judge, because usually the Supreme Court doesn't hire you right away. You got to clerk for a different judge first. And it was the most incredible experience because you got all the other clerks from different chambers. Some years there's some discord. Think Bush versus Gore year, for example. My year, I met great friends who are clerking for Scalia, clerking for Thomas, and we could have conversations like we're going to have today.
Yeah.
And that's something very special that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.
One quick follow-up on that, and I don't know if there was a typical answer to this. How long did it normally take from the time that the court heard arguments to the time that in the back room they made a decision?
It was that Friday. So here's what it is. They have oral arguments on, calendar a week or two a month. So let's say it's calendar week of oral arguments. You have an argument on Monday. They go to conference on Friday.
Right.
Each justice is asked, what do you think? They have a tally, and they assign the opinion to somebody. Now, occasionally it switches, so it's not like it's a final decision.
Right.
But the tentative decision is made that week.
Wow. Like the Obamacare case, famous with that famous switch. Okay, so I am going to put you in a position that I shouldn't put you in. of asking you to defend your former boss, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said when asked by Stephen Colbert, she made a ruling that a hot dog is a sandwich.
I totally agree.
You're with her on that.
I'm with her on it, yeah.
Even though it's because some people argue that a hot dog is basically an American taco because they're not two separate pieces of bread. It's one continuous carbohydrate stuffed with something and therefore not a sandwich.
So for those out there who are not lawyers, if you find this conversation interesting, you want to talk about law school, reach out to me. Ross, what you just said is imagine two slices of bread that are joined and you put peanut butter and jelly in between. Does that make it not a sandwich?
Some would say yes, it's a peanut butter and jelly taco at that point. And I guess this is why we have judges. But if you were ruling, I think you already made your ruling.
I made my ruling.
Your ruling is that it is a sandwich.
Well, and as Attorney General, we do get to give legal opinions. And I will work to give as much care in my opinions as Ginsburg gives in hers. Yeah, for those who haven't seen her on Colbert, people don't know about Justice Ginsburg. Justice Scalia was the same way. Incredible sense of humor. She had an incredible sense of humor. She was usually the straight person to her husband, who was a total crack-up. But she has a great sense of humor. And she said she married her husband because he made her laugh.
And that's part of the reason I think, and you would know way better than I would, that Ginsburg and Scalia were such good friends.
Yes. They loved to laugh together. They both loved opera. They loved traveling.
Yeah.
And they loved having serious discussions that they both learned from. She wrote an opinion in the VMI case allowing women into the Virginia Military Institute. She said Scalia gave her an advanced copy of his dissent. She said it ruined her weekend, but it made her majority opinion better.
All right. Our special guest in studio, Phil Weiser, who on January 8th, is that right?
You got it.
Will be sworn in as the next Attorney General of Colorado. Okay. Part of the reason that I wanted to have you in at this particular time was a question that came from a listener, and then I had Professor Tom Krannawitter in with me, who is a strict constitutionalist, libertarian kind of guy. And the listener, who is a lawyer and a liberal, said, Ross, you had a guest in who agrees with you on almost everything. Why don't you get a liberal in to talk about this? I said, all right, I will. And to generalize the question is, what are the limits of majority rule in the United States of America? And it came up as a question about redistribution of wealth. Like, so if the population voted that it was okay to take almost all the money, like 85% of the people voted to take most of the money away from the top 0.1% in America, would that be okay because such a big majority of Americans voted for it? And how do you think about that?
It's a great question. Let me offer a few thoughts. So one, take a step back. Constitutionalism is a strategy of governance. And one of the ideas is we can think really hard about certain principles, our more reflective, better selves, and embody them in the Constitution so they're protected from majority rule. And that is not necessarily anti-democratic because part of what we are doing is playing a longer game. People don't have every moment of their lives to reflect on democratic decision-making. Sometimes they might have impulses at one moment, like, sure, let's do it. And constitutionalism is a way that people can protect themselves from momentary impulses. And the founders were terrified. They talked about the passions and the fact that you could get someone, take Huey Long as an example, who would be a demagogue, who would get people inflamed and would lead people to do things that were hurtful and that were mistaken. So property rights.
Even if a majority supported them.
Yes, this is the whole point of the Constitution. The Constitution is we the people bind ourselves to protect ourselves from our worst selves. Whether it's equality, whether it's free speech, whether it's property rights. We have taken certain issues off the table for democratic decision-making in the day-to-day to allow us to govern ourselves responsibly. And so one has to ask the question, do you believe in constitutionalism and do you believe in empowering judges to enforce constitutional limits as part of a democracy strategy? Because I don't believe the Constitution is anti-democratic. I believe it is a form of democracy where we take time, and this is why we in Colorado have struggled with our initiative process, because we set it up and we didn't recognize, and this, we learn, and we've made an adaptation with now 55% required. Some states said, if you want to amend the Constitution, you got to do 55% in 2 consecutive elections. Or you need the legislature sign off and you need the people sign off. Some think to have more deliberation. Up until recently, we had the same standard to amend our Constitution as we had to amend statutes.
Right.
And that I believe, was a mistake in that it didn't realize constitutionalism needs to be something different than day-to-day democratic decision-making.
Yeah, I agree. And also that the Constitution, in my way of thinking, should contain mostly, to the greatest extent possible, really fundamental kind of rules. And then more detailed stuff, that should be, in my opinion, left to statute.
Totally agree with this. And this is important because you get certain issues. Let's take marijuana, for example.
Yeah.
We want to be able to adapt how we approach this issue. We might want the tax revenue to go to something else at some point in time, or we might want to redefine what is marijuana as we learn more about it.
Mm-hmm.
We put that in the Constitution.
Yeah.
We have limited our ability to refine policy as we learn more.
One quick question that feel free to tell me you don't want to answer it because you're not in office yet, but a listener asked, and I'm going to try to make this as generic as possible. There's some stuff going on right now. You brought up marijuana. There's some stuff going on with Denver and Boulder and maybe some other places talking about reducing sentence or expunging and sealing records for people who had low-level marijuana crime convictions for things that wouldn't be crimes now. And I want to put this as generically as possible so that maybe you'll be able to answer it. Is that an area in which your office would have any authority, or is all of that done at the level of the local DA? Is that a fair way to put that question?
Very fair way to put it. The pathway that I believe we will follow and that I will be engaged in is a legislative effort to create a framework to do this statewide. Here's the principle. You were arrested for something that we no longer believe is a crime. You were convicted or pled guilty to something that we no longer believe is a crime. That is with you now. And so when you fill out an application, have you committed a crime? Have you been arrested for a crime? You have to check yes.
Mm-hmm.
If you can expunge it, you are liberated from a mistake or something that, at the time you thought, hey, I'm smoking weed, what's the big deal?
Mm-hmm.
We now think, no big deal. But you still have this record. We want to give you a fresh start. I believe that makes sense. I believe we will see action this legislative session on this, and I, as the Attorney General, will work with the legislature to help us get to a place where people can get on with their lives and not, let's say, have limits on even jobs.
There is already kind of a first legislative step toward that in place, but I think you and others and I would like to expand it, maybe even automate it a little bit.
Yes, exactly. And this is the key point, Ross. What can we do to make this as easy as possible? We do not want to force people to jump through all sorts of hoops. We want to figure out how do we make this as easy and clean as possible. And obviously, you have to make sure that the offense was actually a marijuana offense that no longer is against the law.
Yeah.
We can do that. Boulder's already done it. Denver's working on it. We'll do it statewide.
Okay, let me come back. I want to get a specific answer from you on this question of majority rule. There are a lot of people on your side of the political aisle who've been talking a lot lately, and I don't know whether it's because it's an actual principle or reaction to Trump or whatever, but along the lines of we're not democratic enough. Let's get rid of the Electoral College. We need to not have the Senate seats distributed the way they are because Wyoming gets as many senators as California, that kind of thing. And I wonder what you think about this push by some towards a more pure quote-unquote democracy. I'm very much against that. I think our nation was structured the way it was for very good reasons. But what do you think?
So a couple different thoughts. And I think you have a few questions there. I'd answer them differently.
Okay.
The Electoral College was set up in a way that we've never seen, except maybe like George Washington. The founders really thought we could elect electors who people trusted and they would make wise decisions on our behalf. That was the initial thought. Pretty quickly, electors became identified with campaigns, and when you vote for elector, you voted for the person running for president.
Right.
This is now an issue that I will be defending, and I'm very comfortable with this, depending on your stripes. So Lawrence Lessig, a law professor, is calling them Hamiltonian electors, people who are electors who want to vote for someone other than they were pledged to.
Mm-hmm.
We would call them faithless electors, electors who are going rogue and not doing what they said they would do. Colorado has a law that says if you're an elector pledged to a candidate, you have to vote for the candidate. Now, that is not what the Electoral College was originally meant to be, so Lawrence Lessig has what you might call an originalist challenge to the Colorado law that is going up through the courts.
And where are you going to be on it?
I'm defending Colorado law.
If you weren't going to be Attorney General, which side would you be on?
I'd probably be on the same side.
Yeah.
I do think, here's why. I'm a pragmatist, and I believe that we have to allow certain give and take in our institutions, and the Electoral College as an institution has already changed in the way I just mentioned. It isn't operating under its original understanding. It actually rarely ever did. And so to give electors this new right would literally throw our current Electoral College system into chaos, because people would run saying, I'm pledged to Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, and then they'd get elected and they could say, you know what, let's start some other campaign. It could get tricky. So that's an issue about our democracy. I'll take your one about the Senate. We're not going to change the Senate. I mean, that's just, it's not happening. Now, if you want to talk about a democracy issue, should the District of Columbia be its own state and have representation in Congress is an interesting issue, because they are American citizens. They live in this country, and they have no representation in Congress.
Yeah. So the principled answer is yes. The political answer is not, until you also want to create another state that is about as Republican as D.C. is Democratic.
I understand.
Can you stick around for a while?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I got about a minute and a half left in this segment. I got so many other things I want to talk to you about.
Great.
Okay, so but let me ask you this.
Sure.
If 70% of Colorado voted that there was going to be a tax on a 70% tax rate on the richest 500 people in Colorado, but almost everybody else in Colorado voted to support it, would that be okay?
So here's the hard part on this. As you think about, again, from a constitutional perspective. So first off, from a policy perspective.
Forget about policy.
I know, I understand that. Okay. Well, let me just say, from a perspective, what you're just doing is asking the richest people in Colorado to move to another state. So from a policy perspective, Colorado would be, I don't know, cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Right.
It is a not something a state can afford to do to make it so cost prohibitive that people would move.
Right.
From a constitutional perspective, I would need to hear what is the particular provision or concern that would lead you to think this is not lawful. And I'm not sure there is protection against wealthy people from a high tax rate in the Constitution. Now, if you said to me, let me give you a different answer.
I'll tell you what, hold that until the next segment.
All right.
All right. We'll be right back, continuing our conversation with Phil Weiser, next Attorney General of the state of Colorado. Deep thoughts right here in the early morning on 630 KHO. We'll be back.
This report is sponsored by Len Lyle Chevrolet.
Slowdowns continue. A couple of trouble spots. Boulder Turnpike crews are working a minor accident westbound 36 past 92nd on the left shoulder, partially sticking in that express lane. Southbound 225 heavy as you approach Parker Road into the Tech Center. You're going to pass an accident. Southbound 225 past Parker. Southbound I-25 loaded up as well, heavy into the Tech Center. I-70 crowded, 270 dealing with delays, as well as 6th Avenue. An accident near 73rd and Washington, and restrictions both sides of Washington. Then forecast to be sunny and warmer today, high of 54. Tonight, low of 28, and sunny skies for the weekend. Right now, it's 33. With the traffic and weather, I'm Susan Thielen, 630 KHO.
Hi, Dan Johnson with Len Lyle Chevrolet. You hear other Chevy dealers scream low prices like $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 off. Well, we'll beat them all, guaranteed. We have the lowest overhead, so we have the lowest prices. Len Lyle Chevrolet, I-225 in East Colfax, or on the web at lenlylechevy.com. Chevy, find new roads.
My name is Mary Verity, owner of Comprehensive Medical Weight Loss. Among other things, we offer hormone therapies for men and women. We do this because I myself needed it. At 42 years old, I had a hysterectomy which caused me to go into full medical menopause. I was always tired, couldn't sleep, had joint pain, and I had no libido. I needed help. That was 5 years ago. With a 10-minute procedure performed in our office, I suddenly felt like I was Mary at 22 years old. I started sleeping again, having more energy, being more active, had no more joint pain, and my husband definitely gets lucky a lot more often now. We at Comprehensive Medical Weight Loss have treated thousands of men and women who were suffering like myself. I got my life back and so did they. If you want to feel like you did when you were 22, call us today to schedule your consultation at 720-874-0280. That's 720-874-0280, or online at coloradomedicaldiet.com. That's coloradomedicaldiet.com.
One of the interesting things about Colorado, especially interesting having a lawyer in the room, In Colorado, it's actually illegal for car dealerships to be open on Sundays. So you have very different experiences. Go to any of the John Elway stores on Saturday versus Sunday. On Saturday, there will be folks there to answer your questions and show you around and tell you about all the options, and you might want to do that. And I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a Chevy or a Cadillac or Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram. That one's up in Greeley. And then you're welcome to go to the Elway stores on Sundays to walk around unaccompanied and look at the cars without anyone else there to talk to you, and look at all the information in the windows and the colors that you like and the options, and look through the window and look at the interior and all that. You're welcome to do all of that and decide what you want, and then go back to the dealership or just go online. You can order a vehicle directly on the website, and they'll deliver it to you. That website, of course, elwaydealers.com. That's elwaydealers.com.
Do you ever wonder how we're streaming millions of movies on demand or doing our banking from the beach? And how are we watching a live mission from Mars? Smart business minds dreamed these ideas, and Amazon Web Services is how they built them. With the broadest functionality and the most experience, the leading enterprises trust the AWS cloud to build the next big idea. Are you ready to build it? Learn more at awsishow.com.
Dell's dedicated small business advisors give you tech advice and one-on-one partnership to help your business grow. And now's the time to save on select business PCs with 8th Gen Intel Core processors until the end of the year. Maximize this year's budget and find the right tech solution for your business. Plus, get free shipping on everything. Visit Dell.com/business deals or call 877-BUY-DELL to talk to a Dell small business advisor today. That's 877-BUY-DELL.
When I have a cold sore, I want something that works.
Herpecin L penetrates deep to treat your cold sore, and it's enriched with lysine, vitamins, and lemon balm for soothing relief.
But even when I don't have a cold sore, I still want something that protects against a flare-up.
Herpecin L protects against certain triggers caused by the sun and cold, including flare-ups from sun damage with its added SPF 30 protection. So it treats and protects.
Works for me.
And me too.
Herpecin L works when you have a cold sore, works when you don't. Use as directed.
It's never been easier to get rewarded at Isle Casino Hotel Blackhawk. Sign up for the fan club because all new members win up to $1,000 fan play or other great prizes. Membership is free, and all new members are instant winners. Plus, provide a valid email address and you'll receive an extra $5 fan play. So come on down and let the winning begin at Isle Casino Hotel Blackhawk.
Must be 21. All terms, conditions, rewards, and benefits are subject to change or revocation without notice. Eligibility and exceptions apply. See official rules. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
It's time to spread a little holiday cheer with the Epson EcoTank printers. Their revolutionary cartridge-free printing makes everybody smile. Take a look at the 4750. It's a wireless, all-in-one printer. It doesn't use ink cartridges. We have one set up in my wife's home office. She loves it because it never seems to run out of ink. No more last-minute runs to the store because we need new ink cartridges. No ink cartridges at all. It's got easy-to-fill ink tanks and enough ink to print up to 11,000 color pages. That's a lot of ink, about 30 ink cartridge sets. You'd spend $1,500 to get 30 ink cartridge sets, but this costs you a lot less. Go to Epson.com/EcoTankLeo to learn more. And now, for a limited time through the end of the year, get free overnight shipping, but you have to use the promo code EcoTankLeo at checkout when you buy any EcoTank printer. Offer valid within the 48 contiguous states. Exclusions apply, subject to availability. Cartridge-free printing with EcoTank. Never buy another ink cartridge again.
Do you have scalp psoriasis? Horizons Clinical Research Center in Denver is seeking volunteers to participate in a research study of an investigational medication for scalp psoriasis. You must be at least 18 years old to qualify. Qualified participants will receive all study-related medical exams and medication at no cost, plus compensation for time and travel. Medical insurance is not required. Call Horizons Clinical Research Center now at 303-399-4067 or visit horizoncrc.com for more information and to see if you qualify. Remember, there's no cost to you. 303-399-4067.
News. I'm Lillian Wu. The president's one-time personal attorney making accusations against his former boss.
He directed me to make the payments. He directed me to become involved in these matters.
Michael Cohen, who was sentenced to 3 years for lying to Congress and campaign finance violations, talking to ABC's Good Morning America. The president saying Cohen acted on his own. There will be an autopsy on the 7-year-old migrant girl who died hours after being taken into U.S. custody custody. Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen telling Fox News.
This is just a very sad example of the dangers of this journey. This family chose to cross illegally. What happened here was they were about 90 miles away from where we could process them.
Officials saying the girl who was found December 6 had a high fever and was airlifted to an El Paso, Texas hospital where she died. This is Fox News.
This is Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW, an iHeartRadio station. With Russ Kaminsky Mornings, Sean Hannity at 1, KHOW, Denver.
Exergen Temporal Scanner Thermometer Weather Center.
Sunny skies today with a high in the low to mid 50s. Mostly clear overnight with a low in the upper 20s. Partly sunny tomorrow with a high in the upper 50s.
This report is sponsored by 23andMe.
Give the gift for everyone you love with a DNA kit from 23andMe. This holiday season, go to 23andme.com/gift and get 30% off each kit. Offer ends December 25th.
Now, the Ross Report.
For today's Ross Report, I'm joined by my son Jasper, who's in 5th grade at a school in Littleton. And during the day yesterday, on Thursday, I heard news that there was some kind of bomb scare at Columbine. But what I didn't know what was going on at my own kid's school. So Jasper, tell us what happened at your school.
At school, an announcement came on saying that there was an email coming from a teacher's account on like Google or something, and there was an email saying, I'm gonna bomb Columbine.
And so what did they do at your school?
We went in lockdown for like about 30 minutes, and we went back to normal.
Was it scary?
Yeah.
Like how scared were you?
I was pretty scared, yeah. And also, there were a bunch of other kids at my school.
Yeah, a lot of kids were scared. And then after about half an hour, what did they tell you?
They said it was fake.
Wow.
They said it was all fake, and the police had figured it out. It was just a fake email coming from someone, like in Asia.
Wow. All right, Jasper, thank you. You know, so this happened yesterday. A bomb scare called into Columbine. I talked to a friend of mine in law enforcement. He said these threats actually come in fairly frequently. They're usually actually from Europe, although Jasper said Asia. And they're usually through IP telephones where you really can't trace them. And they've always been fake, but that doesn't mean they don't cause incredible fear. I hope you and your family didn't have to go through this today, and in a way, I'm just glad that I didn't actually know that my kid's school was one of the ones that got locked down. I don't know what makes a person do something like that, but one can only hope that karma pays them a very painful visit someday. And that's today's Ross Report, brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning, who want to remind you that they have a tremendous financing offer. Let's say we're going into the winter, you've got an old furnace, you're uncomfortable with its efficiency and maybe its safety, and you'd like to get a new one, but you don't have the cash up front right now. Well, with L&L Heating and Air Conditioning, you can pay it off over 60 months with no interest. I want you to learn more by getting in touch with them through the website, bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. All right, I am still very pleased and privileged to be joined in studio by Phil Weiser, the incoming Attorney General of the state of Colorado. We are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube if you want to go check us out there. And Phil would like to respond to a listener question that, or a listener comment that came through by text on the marijuana thing that we were talking about a few minutes ago. A listener said, and I won't read the whole thing, I'll kind of summarize. I disagree with expunging the record of people who broke marijuana laws because it's not so much what the law was, it's the fact that this person was willing to break the law and set their own standards, and I think it shows low character. This is what my listener is saying. And then he ends by saying, as an employer, I want to know that about a person.
First, I want to thank your listener for a really powerful, important point. And too often in our politics, we have discussions that are polarized, that we can't even acknowledge contrary points. The way we get to good results is thinking hard about issues, taking concerns on board, and getting to better policy. So a red flag law is a good example. I want to hear people's concerns about how red flag law would work in practice so that when we craft whatever the law is going to be, we've thought hard about these issues and gotten to the best possible place we can be. On this issue, this is a powerful point someone has. Here's what I would say back, a couple things. A lot of people who may have committed marijuana offenses were living in a situation, say they're, kid in college or in a community where they thought it's no big deal. And part of the point here, the fact that such a high percentage of Colorado voted to make marijuana legal was people saying, we don't think this is a big deal. And so part of the problem is when you have a law that's on the books, but the law is something that people don't believe in and people start disregarding it, that's bad for the rule of law. That tells you something. And when you say to me, what's the big issue here, I'd say, listen, the impact on people's lives, it's not just the way he's saying it. It's that a lot of employers aren't as thoughtful as he was. He's got a powerful reason. You can still ask someone, hey, did you use or sell marijuana? What are your thoughts on there? If that's something you want to take into effect. I think a lot of employers, it's basically just a check the box. And literally, if you check the box, I committed a crime, your application's in the garbage can.
Yeah.
No further questions. And that just sweeps really broadly. My point is give people a fresh start where they don't have to check the box, because we as a society say it's no big deal. Probably when the people committed what then was a crime, they were thinking it was no big deal.
Right. And I would be sort of close to agreeing with this guy if we were talking about expunging and sealing records for armed bank robbery.
Absolutely.
But not for marijuana use. And for the record, my listeners know this, I've never smoked pot in my life. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. But I'm very much for legalization as a matter of freedom. I'm sure that doesn't surprise you. So I understand my listener's point. I don't agree with my listener, but I agree with you that it's an interesting and valid point. And long as we're on this, let me raise another thing to you. I had I don't think it was on the air, but I had a conversation with somebody George Brockler, about this. He's a prosecutor. He says, look, sometimes there are situations where somebody commits a few minor crimes all at once, and there have been situations where we've got him on a marijuana crime back when the stuff was illegal, and then maybe two other minor things, and we say, you know what, just plead to the marijuana thing, and then we'll drop the other stuff. And if you expunge that, then somebody who really committed 3 crimes is getting off as if they committed none, because marijuana wasn't the only offense, but it's the only one we processed. What do you think?
A couple things. There's 2 different situations. One is you're bargaining over what is being charged. And the second situation, which is the more common one, is you're engaging plea bargaining and you're dropping some charges that you've already been charged with, and you just plead to another one. The second situation, we can actually create a regime or a law that figures out when that happened, and we can say, oh, you were initially charged with these crimes, you only pled to this crime, we're going to treat that differently. So back to the automated point, that might not be one you can handle on an automated basis, because you might need some actual analysis of, wait a minute, is this a fair result to expunge this one crime when there are other crimes you're charged with? As for at the charging stage, we didn't even charge you with the other ones, we just charged you with the marijuana ones. That is going to be very difficult to actually figure out if that happened. My answer there is no law is perfect. You can't do justice 100% of the time every single way. There could be someone getting overly lenient treatment to have the marijuana expunged when it happened as a charging matter and you had no way to know that there's other stuff. But I'm going to accept imperfection that does more good to more people and not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Let me ask you one quick follow-up. You brought up the red flag law. So since I play an attorney on radio, no, I actually don't.
You do it very well.
But since you raised it, I am allowed to cross-examine on the issue.
For those keeping score at home, that's called opening the door. It's actually
you opened the door.
It's a concept in the rule of evidence. So,
you opened the door.
I did.
Many of my listeners are strong Second Amendment people, and I'm not going to go too far down the road on this. I'm going to ask you, are you as open as you made it sound that you are, to actually hearing the opinions of people who own guns, know a lot about guns, are really worried about a red flag law? Because you're not a pro-gun guy. You didn't grow up in that culture.
Right.
And you and I have talked about this off the air. I have concerns, not just about you, liberals in general don't know a lot about guns. And a lot of my listeners really worried. They're going to come take our guns. And I'm not asking you, what's your position on the policy? I'm asking you, are you really going to listen to people who are really afraid of red flag laws and the reasons they're afraid of them?
Absolutely. And not just on red flags, on any issue. I am the Attorney General to be for all Coloradans. I need to listen to all Coloradans on all issues. Roy Romer, a phenomenal governor, campaigned at age 90. Here's what Roy would always say. All truth is partial. So I do know that there is a truth out there. I just get a call from someone the other week and said, my friend knows somebody who owns guns and who's talking about hurting people. I'm really scared. What can we do?
Mm-hmm.
And one answer is, well, if we had a red flag law, that would be the obvious thing to do. The 72-hour hold doesn't work quite the way some might like it to be, so that's not a great option. So we are looking for the right tool. But I don't want us to craft a tool that does unnecessary damage. And more importantly, and this is part about constitutional judging, what's great about our system of constitutional law is that both sides need to be heard. And at the Supreme Court, we started talking about Scalia and Ginsburg.
Mm-hmm.
They listened. They listened, and they reflected, and they came to decisions not because they woke up one morning and they had a whim, but because they were committed to getting the right result. That's how I'm going to approach being Attorney General. And so if you ever see me not listening, you can blast me on the air for it. I deserve it.
Well, I'll get you on the air. And
get me on the air, and I'll listen.
I'll
and
blast you in public, and then you can respond. I want to actually follow up. We've only got maybe a minute or two left here on that Roy Romer all truth is partial thing. That's an interesting point. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean that in any given conversation you are likely to get one person's point of view that doesn't contain the entire story? Or does that mean that there is no such thing as truth?
The first one. What it means is God sees the truth. God can see the whole truth. As a human being with limited experience and limited vision, just think about it. You walk into a restaurant, there's a lot happening right now. You saw something happen.
Mm-hmm.
There was what you saw, there was something there, but there are things you didn't see. And the challenge is, how do you put the whole picture together? And the best way to do that is talk to as many people as you can who saw things from different angles with different life experience, and then reflect to get the best picture of what's happening. That whether it's school safety, whether it's how you handle water, whether it's oil and gas, these aren't easy issues.
Mm-hmm.
And if you talk to only one group, and that only one group, and you get their version, their perspective,
yeah,
you're impoverished in your ability to make good decisions.
Right, and especially if the one group you talk to is a group that already shares what they call your priors.
Correct.
Your previously existing views, and then
Yes.
you just engage in confirmation bias, which is bad for everybody, and I don't think you're going to do that. So I'm really glad about that. I need to wrap up my conversation with Phil Weiser. Phil, I would like to end it by sharing with you a text I just got from a listener. Ross, thank you for being willing to bring on guests who differ on politics and ideas from you and most of your listeners. It's bold and honest. I voted a straight Republican ballot and was disappointed about the Attorney General result. I've really enjoyed your conversation with Phil, and I'm reminded that despite our differences, we're all people who are capable of getting along and setting tension aside to have a great conversation. Thanks to you, and congratulations to Phil Weiser.
That's Colorado. That's great. That's how we, back to democracy,
Yeah.
that's how we make democracy work.
Phil Weiser, thanks so much for joining me in studio. Looking forward to doing more of these in the future. Congratulations on your victory, and we'll talk with you again soon.
I look forward to it.
All right, have a great new year. I'll tell you what, folks, if you want to give me a call and a quick reaction to the conversation that I had with Phil, I'd be willing to take a call or two in the next segment, and I'm going to respond to it as well. Phil has to get on to his next meeting, or he'd stick around, but he's got something else to do. So you can give me a call, 303-713-8255. I'll be right back on The Ross Kaminsky Show.
He really likes to talk.
There is enormous administrative
and talk.
Very big problem.
And talk. No wonder he's an award